welcome to the PFG Show, otherwise known as the Playbook for Growth Show. I am one of your hosts, and this is my co-host, Sam McKenzie. I'm Connor Cameron, and we're bringing you a podcast where young men can kind of find an outlet to grow and to learn and to ultimately succeed. And we're kind of trying to push that and help you guys do that as we're living through it as well. And by no means have we got it sorted out, but we're hoping to teach and kind of grow and learn together and ultimately succeed. And through this, we're hoping that we can make a difference. And Sam can kind of piggyback off what I said.
Yeah, it's good to be here at long last. We've been talking about this, I mean, don't even know how long now. It's
Wow.
It's been in the works. I think so we obviously, what's it been now since we've met? 3 years
3 years?
almost. It has been
Yeah.
has been 3 years.
Over 3
Um,
years, 3.5.
yeah, I think we, which is crazy to say, um,
Yeah.
but we've sort of just found ourselves in a position where we knew that there was a lot of growth to be had, and kind of a process to go through to be better versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
And as we're finding that, we figured we put that together and deliver it as a show as we lean on some voices that have been through it, that have, as we'll get into, some of the more inspiring voices in the world, which is what we kind of gather from and then repurpose out for our show. But no, it's just it's been something in the works. It's something I'm excited to do, and I think that we're in a position now where we can really chase after this and really get into it. I think that we're learning quickly. We're kind of living it, and so I think that almost makes it easier to repurpose it as a show when we're in the midst.
Spot on. I think you put it very well there. So if anything else, we should just jump right in. So let's start with how do you find discipline, and can you create discipline?
Right. Well, I'll reference a lot of people throughout the show, because I've been trying to learn this lesson for a long time now, and the first voice that pops into most people's minds, into most people's mouths, would be David Goggins, and that's where I'll go.
Yeah.
I think that he simplifies it in a way that I think people just need to hear, that I certainly needed to hear, and that is, regardless of how you feel, just get up and do what you're supposed to do. And
Right.
when you have purpose, when you have a defined purpose, that you know what you need to do and that it's going to take discipline to do that, as long as you know what you're supposed to do, you have to disregard your feelings and do it regardless. And I think
Right.
that's a big lesson, is that motivation and discipline are the two different categories, and Jocko Willink talks about this as well, where motivation is a fleeting emotion that comes and goes, and sometimes you'll feel like doing what you're supposed to do, other times you would rather just lay in bed and do nothing, or switch
Right.
off, or get on social media and scroll the hours away. And I say this, as you know, from vast amounts of experience, vast amount of evenings in my like physical prime, just wasted scrolling and scrolling away. And that's the easier thing to do. But again, as Jocko would say, like, discipline and motivation is two different things. Discipline, it's no matter how you feel, just get up and do what you're supposed to do. And the annoying thing is, it's not glamorous. It's not an easy fix. It's not a
Right.
magic pill that you can take. It's not going to get any easier, but that's the point of it. Andrew Huberman, another one, where I've drawn a lot of inspiration from. He says you have to find your dopamine, you have to find the enjoyment in the process, not just the outcome.
Right.
And
Right.
to where doing the thing becomes the dopamine reward. It becomes what pushes you out of bed every day, not just the final result, not just what people see, but those unseen hours, which I'm sure we'll get into. That's the thing, and it's an unglamorous answer, and it's not really what most people want to hear. It's certainly not what I wanted to hear, what you wanted to hear. But it's removing emotion and having a defined purpose of what you're supposed to do, doing hard things on purpose and getting them done, regardless of how you feel. And it's a tough reality, but it's one that's certainly very rewarding when you start to live it.
Yeah. Totally agree. I think It's funny. I was rewatching David on Chris Williamson's show, Modern Wisdom, last night, and just he talks about his morning routine of how it's 12-mile run minimum, and just gets up at, he said, around 5:30, which is absolute gangster, very gangster activities. But obviously, I'm not 5:30, but I'm 6, so
You're there.
But
You're
but
just
anyway,
right there.
yeah, but not to 12 miles. But anyway, he talks about the 12 miles, and he just runs because he feels that before he does anything else, he feels that doing the running, doing that running aspect will kind of like he's already done the hard stuff. He's already done the hard thing first. He's already done that
Start with the hardest.
right when he wakes up. So whatever else happens during the day is not as hard or isn't the same as what he did this morning, where it's that 12-mile run, so an hour and a half, 2 hours, I think he said, and then gym for 45 minutes, an hour to an hour and a half is right away. So he's already done the hard workload, the majority of the work in a 4-hour period or whatever, 3.5-hour period, right when he wakes up. And so everything else past that is not as hard as what he did in this morning. And I think that's a very good point. I think that he brings up social media, how whatever shit that's been said on social media about him or whatever, he's like, it doesn't matter to me because it's not it I've already done the hard thing. I know, so it's that kind of aspect. And I think it was fascinating to kind of listen to his morning routine again and try to learn even more.
Yeah,
So
I think to build off that, when you say like the social media and the hate comments and all that kind of thing, I think for him, something that he'll say is like, I have the proof, like the evidence is there because I've done it, and you don't have that imposter syndrome versus when you're just kind of posting things on social media, the inspirational quotes and like, oh, getting the work in, these kind of things. Yeah, there's a bit of imposter syndrome, whereas with David, it's nobody's there. He's like, it was just you anyway in the beginning, and we know that David's
right,
had an unbelievable journey from where he was to where he
yeah,
is.
yeah,
But it's just building that proof with yourself, and by having the discipline to do the hard things, you build that trust in yourself. You build that confidence within yourself to say and to know that on your lowest days and your hardest days, when you still got it done, that means something. That's physical proof, and that's something that Chris will go on
absolutely,
about as well, as you mentioned. Modern wisdom, by far the biggest inspiration for why we're here.
yeah,
Uh, just building that proof with yourself and keeping promises to yourself of, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And Goggins is, I mean, he's just it's hard to find the words. Just such a extravagant example, such a unbelievable. I was going to say the word blueprint. I don't know if we can, because I personally know my physical limitations, and I know that he has just broken beyond
yeah,
what anyone probably thinks they've
yeah,
ever been capable of. So I don't want to say he's a blueprint, but for the basic ideas of, this is what I need to do, I'm going to do it regardless of how I feel,
yeah,
and then that builds the confidence, the trust up in yourself that you know that you can do these things and that you can get them done,
right.
regardless of how you feel, regardless of what it is that you have to do. That you're just going to do it. Those things are it's just amazing. It makes so much sense in my head, as we've learned about it, and as you say, listening to people like him.
Exactly. I think that he's definitely a real inspiration, and although we may never see that level or we're not there yet, I think he's definitely a blueprint is not a bad word, but I think maybe idol or someone that you would look up to kind of be in that peak performance. And like I spoke to my dad the other day about being in shape and working out, he's like, it's just not today, it's forever. So it's just you're always wanting to be in the best shape that you can be. You always want to be grinding and working and being the best you can be. And you can do that through a lot of different things, but being in shape is one of them. Eating the right things is one of them. Doing the right things is one of them. There's lots of things that we'll talk about, but definitely doing the hard thing first is definitely how you find discipline, and certainly how you learn to create discipline. And you create discipline through the process. It's not just happen. Discipline just doesn't happen overnight. You don't just wake up the next morning and go, yeah, you know what, I'm disciplined today, because you're not, and it's just not how it goes. It's like I've been disciplined through like almost like coming up probably on a year of like just trying to do the right things and doing the right things. And even till recently, till we've done this 75-day hard challenge together, which we'll get into, of course, but like we're on day 36 or 37 or something of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And in the last 2 months, whatever it is, 35 days, 1.5 months, I guess. It's you learn a lot about who you are, and you have a lot of time for self-reflection when you're doing the right things, because instead of scrolling on social media, you're like, oh, I'm reading a book, and then I have time to self-reflect. Or there's stuff in your life where you're changing bad habits for good habits, and 75 days hard is just a start. And it's supposed to be lifelong. But so what I'm talking about is the process, the process. Finding discipline for me really clicked when we started this. It really clicked for me, and maybe it was the same for you, or maybe even earlier for you. But like being in the gym every day for 37 days, twice, obviously once is outside, so maybe run, walk, hike, etc. But that discipline comes with determination, I think, and being determined to do the right things consistently is important. And being disciplined isn't just today. It's the process of being it the tomorrow, the next day, and being consistent, and just fighting that urge to, I just want to give up today. I don't want to read 10 pages today because I went out to whatever and did this, and now it's half an hour past my bedtime. I'm tired. I want to sleep. But no, I read the pages. And it's kind of back to that David Goggins where you look back and you go, what? There's proof that I did this. There's proof that I did this. And whether the outside world knows, it doesn't matter. A lot of the times you work in the dark, and that's the best work, is when you work in the dark when no one sees it. That's the best work. And so no one's going to see, but then you realize, you start to level up, and you start to look around, and you go, you know what? This guy, I'm not fitting in with this guy anymore. Like, he's staying up till 11:30, and I'm going to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock because I got to wake up at 6 because I'm ready to grind. And almost that discipline should become not, it shouldn't be work anymore. It should just be, you're just doing it now. Like, when you find work fun, or when you enjoy the work, then it's really not work, right? Like, when you go lift weights, it's like this morning, it's like 2 years ago, if I was lifting weights like this, I'd be like, oh, I hate this. But now it's like, I love it. You know what I mean? So just as you grow up, as you mature, as you develop, there's things in life that start to become fun, that's hard. And that's really the enjoyable part of the process, is really growing.
That's a few points off that. Firstly, I find it fun. That's Mike Tyson. Discipline's doing what you hate to do and doing it like you love it. Love that quote. Previously, I want to contextualize a little bit, just because obviously a lot of great points that you made there, but obviously we are in episode 1. It's a good time to be sort of introductory. Right. Can you touch on, and I will after you, but you said, maybe I don't want to be like this guy because he's staying up late, he's not getting his 8 hours, he's drinking on weekdays and whatnot. Right. Can you maybe, because we're still in sort of environments full of temptation. We're both on college campuses, right? Universities. Right. With that in mind, maybe contextualize a little bit, get into maybe where, when, why we realize that this is sort of a path that we have to take, and that there is maybe more maybe more growth to be done than the environment that we were in. Where did that kind of start? And I know it's the same answer for both of us, but I'll just add on to what you say.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good point. For me, once we met, it was kind of like we've only known each other for 3.5 years, but it's felt like 10, right? And I think we just accelerated immensely in our communication. I felt like we just clicked, and we still do, and forever. But I think in high school, after like a certain point, you kind of go, well, I want to do this with my life. Like, I have these goals, right? I have this list of goals that I want to do, and these people next to me aren't doing that. And that doesn't mean to say that they're bad people. That's fine. Like, everyone has different goals in life, and that's totally cool. That's just not the point. But at some point, you get to a stage where, like, you look yourself in the mirror, for me at least, and I was like, I don't know if I fit in. You know what I mean? And so it starts to, and then you start to like see these things. But for me, it really was like really recently, not really recently, but a year ago, freshman year kind of come to campus and you're like, I don't, but you know me, I've never personally liked staying up really late on weekdays. In general, actually, I've never really staying up late, and that's just been me. And so I've been okay going to bed early. But this is what I want to touch on. The biggest part is FOMO, fear of missing out. This is the biggest part of what we're talking about right now. If you're fearful that you're going to miss out on something because you go to bed at 9:30, then you need to get over that, because are you really going to miss out on the thing? Because truth be told, it's the same thing every damn night. I'm telling you that. I know. I've seen it. I've lived it. Every damn night it's the same damn thing. Do stupid shit that's a waste of time. And I'm being serious. It's true. And you'll start to realize that when you start to kind of do what we're doing, then you'll start to realize, like, yeah, like I did that 6 times last week and I didn't even know it. Obviously, it's different now, but back then. And so you're doing this stuff that's a waste of time and that doesn't do anything for you. So I think that's when I really started to realize, like, okay, well, I'm not missing out on anything. And once you get over that, then it's like, all right, then you believe that they're missing out on what you're doing because they're not doing it. You know, they don't know what it's like because you don't tell anyone. You do the work alone, and then when they see the results, they think it's luck, or they think, oh, that just happened. It's like, no, I trained for a year. That's why I got, you know. So I think it's a fear of missing out point, and I think that once you kind of get over that hump, or you realize that I'm not really missing out on anything because I know what I'm doing, and they're missing out on what I'm doing, I think is when you kind of realize, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I know the path I'm
Yeah,
on.
I think again you've nailed a few important points there, and I think the piece for me was like a lot of the habits that I find to be destructive for me are kind of what's normalized.
Right.
And that's it can be a lot of things, but obviously in our culture at kids our age, and this started in high school when we met, and that was kind
Right.
of where these discussions first came about. But just the amount of drinking, the amount of substances, the time spent on social media,
Yeah.
the things that just don't really matter, the hours wasted on things that don't matter, things that aren't of any substance.
But
Um,
people thought they were of
uh,
matter.
well, yeah, that's it. And I kind of became a product of my environment for a long time, where I kind of was you're kind of taught to believe that certain things are important, that certain things
Right. Right.
matter
Right.
when they really don't. And like you pointed on there, it's like Alex Hormozy, he'll say just you avoid a lot of problems just by going to bed on time.
Right.
There's not a lot of good happens after 10 p.m. is what he would say. And it's a compound effect. It's the discipline of going to bed on time, which maybe you don't want to do. I know that it's a
Right.
big problem for me because I'm not like you. I struggle with it. I find it easy. I find it easy to sleep in. It's a big one for me. But um, even if I don't want to, just to go to bed on time as a compound of that, you're not going to get in trouble uh, after having had too many drinks. And so on and so forth. Like
Correct.
there's a lot of things that come from that, and I think it's just to contextualize again. It it came about for me, especially just when we met, and I think that when we were in high school. Um, Not even necessarily individual people, but more just
No.
the culture that we were a part of, and that they were a part of. Is just my eyes kind of opened a little bit um, to sort of my need to find a life with more purpose and more, I would say, more of a process to it rather than just again the external results that all look at me like a life driven by social media and all that kind of thing. I just think that was a big turning point, was realizing that there's a lot more good, and that spending my time in the books instead of in my phone, and in bed instead of being out too late, those sorts of things, they all compound upon one another and create better results, and it builds a discipline, and it all kind of ties in, as do all the people that we're going to reference throughout the show, are kind of inspirations, from Goggins to Alex Hormozy to Jordan Peterson to Chris Williamson to Joko Willink, all of these people that we'll reference back to many times. Yeah, it's been a process, and I just think it's been good to have my eyes opened to kind of some of the things that you're describing, where perhaps what's accepted in our culture isn't necessarily the things that I want to be spending my time doing.
Right. Right.
or the people that I want to spend my time around. And yeah, it's been a great experience, and it's a journey that we're still on.
Correct. So let me just ask you this then. So we talked about kind of the idea of substances and whatnot. So where like if you like doing that or whatnot, and you're in early stage of kind of finding discipline, how do you navigate that kind of stuff? Because obviously it is really relevant, and it's like it's like an almost you have to kind of thing, from my experience.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that doing that stuff never is not all right. Maybe in moderation is what my suggestion would be. But there's got to be a line. And so where would you draw that line when you're trying to be the best version of yourself?
we like to say Jesus drank wine, right? So
Correct.
that's the first point. But no, the thing is, I wish I had an experience with the vaping or the smoking, because that appears to be, besides alcohol, that appears to be the biggest one, at least in the environments that I've been in. And thankfully, I haven't had those experiences, and so I can't really speak to the vaping. But it's if you have an over reliance on alcohol, it it's sort of a difficult thing to manage. As
Right.
far as how I would go about fixing it, again, thankfully, I've never had to sort of deal with it too much. But I think when is a good time to have a drink and when isn't, and I think most people just have a baseline common sense with that sort of thing. Like
Right.
I know the difference. I know the difference between going out with you on a Friday night when I've gotten a hard week of work done, and I
Yeah.
don't have to be up on the Saturday morning to have a few drinks at a Flames game.
Yeah.
That's a different story to here at university on a Tuesday when I've got a
Right.
lecture the next morning,
Right.
and there's an opportunity to have a few vodkas and all that. For the most part, and I'll maybe let you speak to how to approach coming off of that over reliance, because I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. But as far as just managing when to have a drink in order to do it in moderation, you just got to apply a bit of logic.
Yeah.
And again, it's a
Totally.
hard thing to do, and it comes back to the discipline. It's if you know you're going to be hungover the next day, but you still want to, you have to fight that. You have to fight the balance. You have to always prioritize long term over the
Right.
short term and over the
Right.
instant gratification. So yeah, it's a
Correct.
difficult battle. I'll maybe let you touch on perhaps a habit breaker, but because I wouldn't know how to go about that. But yeah, you kind of know, and I
Yeah.
think that's definitely something that I've gathered is like I know when it's a time to have a drink and when it isn't, and I know when I've had too much and those
Yeah.
sorts of things. So yeah,
Yeah.
and just in
Yeah.
general, I'll
For
let
sure.
you go, but in general, you just feel better sober. My work is better. My mind is clearer, um,
Absolutely.
and so yeah, thankfully I haven't had.
Undeniably different. Undeniably
Oh yeah,
different.
thankfully I haven't had the issues for that reason with the over reliance on alcohol, because it doesn't necessarily make me feel that good. So, but I know some people do. So anyway, let me let you touch on it.
Well, let me talk from my experience. I was never a big drinker, at all. Like for my whole life. And we kind of grew up in an era where like 16, 17 was like you're drinking, right, on the weekends. At least in Calgary. I mean, obviously you're from the UK, so it might be a little different, but I know from the Western society and from Calgary, that was kind of the thing. And so I would go to these things because I had a car, so I drive there. And I just drink, soda water or whatever, and kind of just watch them do their thing. And I still had fun. And I listened to Huberman and Chris yesterday and talk about absence of alcohol and how Chris says, or not Chris, but both of them highlighted you can enjoy 80% of the party without even drinking. And so that was kind of an eye opener for me. But so kind of back on the story is I was never a drinker. And then when I turned 18 and leading up to I turned 18, that was kind of when senior year I had a little more fun. Went out with the guys, had a little more fun, especially grad. Unbelievable night. Might be one of the best nights I've ever had. Not only just because we had a couple drinks, but also just just being with your family, everything. And
Oh, it's
obviously
a beautiful moment. Yeah.
there's a ton of memories, and there's very funny stories that me and Sam definitely have planted up here. of the night, and it makes me laugh right now. But anyway, it was fun. But I think fighting the urge to make the right decision is really hard, and we speak about the product of your environment, because whoever your environment is, what you are. So the question I thought about the other day was, if everyone I was around and hung out with didn't drink, would I drink? And the answer would be no, I wouldn't, because no one else was doing it. You know what I mean? It's like the same with anything. Oh, he has a nice watch. Oh, he has a new phone. It's like, oh, I want that too, because you are hanging around those people. So you want those things too, right? Because your environment has them. And so I think it's that notion of, specifically, you are the product of your environment. And when it comes to drinking, it's really easy to fall into, oh yeah, I'll have a couple drinks, because the couple isn't just two, it turns into 10 and whatnot, especially if you can't control it. And obviously there's some self-discipline that comes with the substance, and when you abuse it, that's when you really are doing yourself a disservice. So for me, the way I look about it right now is we have a long life. We have a lot of time to do. It seems like we have a lot of time, but we actually don't. But my point is you have time each day. You have 24 hours in a day, obviously give or take, that you can do stuff. You can work. So what I noticed myself is, in the past, kind of go down a little rabbit hole here, but in the past, it's like, oh, I have a couple assignments to do. I'm going to do half the assignment, then get distracted. But now it's like, no, I'm doing it. I put my earphones in, put in whatever it is, some freaking music that is not English, because I can't work if I know the song, because I just get sidetracked. So Spanish, or like just brain waves or whatever, to focus
Mario
and do the
Kart
work.
for me. Yeah.
Something like that. Korean, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's not the point. But what I started to utilize is the Stickies app on my computer, on Mac. And so I would put what the tasks I have to do and when they're due, for school specifically. And then I'd have when I did all that, I had to do today. And so I would take these tasks and I'd move them down into to do today. And so at the end of the day, I'd go, okay, and cross them off. And so for me, that's been really beneficial, because I do them with the best work in the time frame. I set a clock on my phone for 90 minutes, and I just do the best work I can, focused. And then move on to the gym, or move on to going for a walk, or move on to watching a podcast or stuff. But anyway, the idea of substance for me is purely on common sense and moderation. There's times in life where drinking is probably appropriate, and there's times in life where drinking is probably not appropriate. On a Thursday night, on a Tuesday night, because, oh, thirsty Thursday, or whatever the stupid shit that people come up with to get you to drink. Is that really a good idea? Like you said, I have a lecture tomorrow morning and I'm drunk. Is that really smart? No. So it's just kind of this common sense of just, Liddy, is this smart? All you have to do is ask yourself. And this is the thing, is what I realize is, to go down another rabbit hole, is obviously playing collegiate golf is you hit a bad shot, and let's say it affects you mentally on that hole. So now you have to come all the way out of that freaking rut onto the next hole. And so I reflected on this and I go, my future self just shames my past self for doing that, because it's wrecked my hole, or it's wrecked my stretch of holes, or it's wrecked my productivity, or whatever it might be. So I always think about anything like this is like, Kate, like you talked about, in the future, is this really going to help me? And it's like, okay, we have a month off at Christmas. You know what? We're going to have some drinks. Like, we know
Delay
that.
the gratification.
And it's like, okay. It's like, okay, right. So it's like we've done sober September, October, November, and half of January or December. You know what I mean? And then you go back on it. So I think it's all about context. I think it's all about, using your common sense and really understanding when is the appropriate time to do the movie, to do the alcohol, to do the whatever it is, whatever fun. And I'm not saying here don't have fun. I want everyone. I want to have the most fun. Like, life is so short. Let's have fun. You know what I mean? But there's a certain stage in life where you need to just grind, and work, and be the best. And then later on is when you can have fun. And
Well,
who's
you
that?
have more fun. You have more fun doing those activities when you know you've taken care of what you need to do, right? Like phew,
Do the hard
man,
thing first. Do the
yeah,
hard
a
thing
few
first.
times. Shout out to Calgary again. A few times in the Saddle Dome, where there's stuff due tomorrow that hasn't been done. It's a different feeling when I got home and got it done, and then we get downtown afterwards. Like that, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Eat the frog. Eat the frog is the phrase that I've learned for that, which
exactly.
is again, it's what you've already
Discipline
talked
is
about. Is do the
destiny.
hardest thing first. Yeah. Another point just off that, like you were saying, because everybody around me is drinking. I know Chris Williamson says I don't know if it's from him or if he's repurposed it from somewhere else, but if you need drinks to have a good time with your friends and you don't have friends, you have drinking partners. Um,
Good
and
point.
that one definitely hit. It definitely hit because I've had people around me where it is a different experience when they've had a drink and when they haven't, and
Right,
it's I can
right.
either be around them or I can't. But then you get like you, my best friend, for example, and a select few in the US, and obviously people here at home, like where yeah, we could just sit in silence. It
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
have to be filled by substance, doesn't have to be filled by anything else. And so yeah, that's definitely a big point is the whole drinking partners versus who are your actual friends, because
right.
the quality of the people that you spend the most time with is certainly, I know we've all heard it, but you are a product of what is it, the five people that you spend the most time with, or that you talk to the
Hmm.
most. Like these things certainly ring true in your habits as well. And I think, well, obviously that's why we're here, but I think
Right.
that you, primarily you, it's certainly helped. So another point that I would maybe bring us to now is you got to find your people, right? Because it's a
Right.
lot harder to bring up the standards of a low performing group, or an unmotivated group, or an undisciplined group than it is to drag some high performers down, right? Like you have to
Right.
be around the right people, and I think that's an important piece that maybe you can speak to. Although that being said, do you find that difficult in your current environment to find those people around you, because you are many thousand miles away from me, and
Right.
it's not always easy to find the people around you. But how would you say that is? Because I can imagine for some people it's not easy to find their people, find their tribe.
It's not easy. It's actually really hard because you know what you're doing in the dark, and those people aren't, and you know that because you know how they act, they know what they do. So for me, is I love the part about the lonely chapter. I love that. I love it about Alex Hermosi, how he said that. I mean, I can really relate to that, quite honestly, and I think it's hard to find your people because, well, one, they're not doing the same things you're doing. And so how can they be your people if they're doing the opposite of what you're doing? Like you just never really like, align, right? So I think you bring up a good point about do you bring the low people up or the high people down? And the high people won't want to come down. They want to go up. So it's hard to bring high people down because they've been on that level and they don't like it. So that's why they're up there, right? And so we're trying to get up there. And so it's easier to bring low people to your point and then bring everyone goes up. But the hardest thing is getting those people to get onto your level. You're not them. You can't you can only say, "Hey, come on, don't eat that. Hey, you got to get in the gym." Only so many times before you just give up, right? And so it's the sense where it's like you can only do so much to get those people to do it, and if they're not going to do it, then that's them. So I've kind of just try to focus on myself of like what I can control, and I can control. I go to the gym. I eat good. I drink my AG1. I drink my protein. I'm getting good food in me. And it's hard. It's hard to do these things because you look around and it's like, well, how am I supposed to eat good if my school shows me shit food? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, don't eat the damn bread. Don't eat the fries. Like, there's like eat more salad. It's just fucking bullshit. Anyway, it's just gross. And I mean, it's just hard. So, I gotta, you gotta eat chicken breast from Whole Foods. Is kind of what we're eating here. So, eating some Koreans like a damn rabbit. But um,
Gets repetitive.
yeah, it gets repetitive. It's the same old stuff. Anyway, but yeah, be the the kind of the idea is being the best you can be. And if people want to come along with you, then that's great. If you can influence people to come along with you, then that's great. But most of the time, that's not how it is. And
Hmm.
it's hard to influence people when they don't see what you're doing. You don't do it in the daylight, so they don't really see it. So you can't really influence them. And for quite frankly, I don't want to tell them what I'm doing anyway because I want to be better than you. So I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing, right? And so once you find your people, then obviously, let's go work out. Let's do this. Let's eat better, stuff like that. But until you find your people, it's like don't tell someone. It's not you don't tell someone. You don't tell your competitor your business idea. Like you don't, right? So it's similar to that aspect of where it's like you know what you're doing, and so just keep doing that. And if people want to join, then welcome them. And if they don't, they keep doing what you're doing. You can't
So
beg people to come work out with you at 6 a.m. You can't beg people to go on a run with you. You know what I mean? So you just got to do what you're
yeah,
doing and keep doing it.
well, I'll keep it simple. Is you're not gonna nobody else is in that gym with you at that time, and so that being said, that makes it an unseen hour, and I want to bring
Correct.
that up because um, another big mindset shift I would say is my sort of in my head, kind of restructuring it to where the unseen hours, the behind the scenes, as you would say, become more important than
Right.
the outward appearance, or look at me, or trying
Yeah.
to show off, um, or trying to, you know, uh, make it seem like I've done the work without actually doing the work. That's certainly been a big shift, and again,
Right.
I call on the same names, but like it's Jocko, it's Chris, it's Alex, it's David Goggins, it's all these people that I've kind of gained this from. It's that uh, you are who you are when nobody's watching. That's the
Right.
level that you fall to. You don't rise to the level that you are when everybody's watching and when you're trying to put on a show. And so that's who you truly are, and who are you when it's just you, when you've
Right.
got, or when I've got 20 floors left on the stairmaster, and nobody's in the gym, and I could easily just hop off and call it a day, or I could go till death. I could touch death, and rep out the last 20
Hmm.
sets of stairs that I told myself I was going to do. Like, those kind of moments, and it's not always just in the gym. It can be with homework. It can be that kind of thing.
Right.
Like when it's 9:30 at night, and you've got half an hour till bed, and you fancy a scroll on TikTok, but no, I've got work to do. Like, uh, I found for me how I approach my relationships with other people and conversations with people, whether it's new people or people that are in my circle that I know, um, I find a difference in how I am outwardly when I've done the work and when I haven't cheated myself, and
Right.
because I have had a tendency to cheat myself in the past, and it's obviously something that we're fighting every day, and that's why we're here. We're trying to have our audience come along with us. We're growing together. Um, but I have had those moments where I want to cheat myself, but when I do what I'm supposed to do in the dark, when nobody's watching and when nobody's holding myself accountable except just me and God, right? When He's the only one
Right.
watching, uh, how I conduct myself, I find that it tends to come out in how I speak to other people and how I conduct situations, and maybe my confidence as well, and these sorts of things. And so I think that's a big piece, is placing a priority on when it's just you. And obviously, we spend a lot of time on our own at the minute, just with obviously living by ourselves, as opposed to being at home, which we will be at Christmas when the drinks will flow, and all those sorts of things. Um, but yeah, that's a big one, and I don't know if you agree, but that's been huge for me, is how you act when nobody's watching, and how that sort of shows itself when you are with others, and when you are putting on a show in public. It's kind of it comes across whether it's genuine or not, and I can often see it on other people as well. I can see it in you, for example, because I know you've been in the gym at 6 in the morning, repping out the weights when nobody else has, and you're not cheating yourself. And yeah,
Hmm.
I just find that it comes out outwardly how you conduct yourself when it's just you.
Yeah.
And so placing the priority on the hours when it's you alone, instead of placing the priority on the hours where you've got to put on a show for people. That's been a huge mindset shift for me, even in the last year and a half or so.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think we always talk about the hours that no one sees are the best. And so I think the bottom line is, to kind of piggyback what you said, when you look yourself in the mirror at night, you know what you accomplished, you know what you did, and that's all that matters.
If you emptied the tank.
If you empty, exactly. Yeah, did I empty the tank today? Did I, I was pushing 55s on dumbbell bench press, but you know what? I could have pushed more, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And so it's like, you want to do the hard things. The hard things are good, and that's what we're trying to emphasize here, is even though hard things suck, who cares? It's good for you. And you'll look back, and then you can go back through your day, and you can go, you know what? I did this hard thing, and I did this hard thing, and guess what? You'll learn. You'll look back, and you'll learn at the hard thing and go, you know what? Now you know what? This is coming up again. Oh, this is easy. This is not good. This is not hard. So it says that repetition of doing the hard things, so that nothing's actually really that hard anymore, because you've already done the hard things. So those easy tasks are even easier because you've done the hard thing. And I think it's just a constant just going up like this, and you do that by learning. You do that by the faster you learn from your failure, the higher you just accelerate. And I think that's also a big thing. But no, for sure, I think just knowing that you emptied the tank, knowing that you did everything you could that day in the present moment, is the best feeling when you go to bed at night, when you know you accomplished a decent amount of hard things, and also you just accomplished things that you had to. There's a sense of dopamine, obviously, that gets released when you do that stuff, and that's good. And so I think that whether it's assignment, whether it's practice, like, don't go to practice and mail it in. Go to practice and work hard. Go to the weight room and work hard. Do the assignment the best that you can. And that's just what we're trying to emphasize, is we're not perfect, and no one's perfect, and we just want everyone, each other, we want the audience, we want everyone to grow, we want everyone to learn, and that's why obviously it's Playbook for Growth, is we're trying to share and then learn and grow and hopefully succeed.
So on that last thing, since it's episode 1, probably a good chance, if I were, like, let's say I'm an audience member that we've got to convince that this is worth listening to, that they can gain something from this. If I'm coming to you and saying, look, Connor, what am I going to gain from listening to the show? How are you going to just, I'll do the same exercise after you do it, but what is it? What are we here for? What am I going to gain from listening?
I think you're going to gain a different perspective. I think you're going to gain a different perspective from someone that's doing the same thing as you, or wanting to do the same thing. And then I think that's valuable. I think that looking at this is kind of like a platform or a channel or whatever you want to call it, where everyone's trying to do the same thing. Everyone's trying to level up. Everyone's trying to learn and grow and succeed. And so if you can see it from my perspective, Sam's perspective, the guests we have on the show, and you can kind of see, oh, he's doing this and it's working for him. And then we have this environment where it's like, okay, we can learn from each other. And I think that's the biggest thing, is we don't know everything. We're trying to learn from people that have done it, and then we're trying to bring it down into our lives and try it, and then let you guys know what we're doing. And we're not better than you guys, and we're just trying to show you the perspective of, we're living a life in the world today just like you are, and we're just trying to be better and grow. And I think we're just doing a perspective where if we have a lot of people trying to get better, we're making a difference, not only individually but as an environment. And that's why I think this is a good listen, and I think that it's going to be fun to see me grow, you grow, guests grow, audience grow, and it's just going to be a fun time to talk and share ideas and learn new things. And I think that's the biggest part, is learning new things, trying them, and seeing if we grow, because we're just trying to grow. At the end of the day, we're trying to be the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah, you've nailed it. I don't have much to add on to it, to be fair, but we're a bit like a middleman. it's easy to hear Alex Ramosi say adopt a 6-day, 12-hour-a-day work week,
Right.
and you're like, okay, what do I do with that? How do I apply that? It's easy to hear
Right.
David Goggins break down his daily routine that
Right.
just boggles your mind. It's easy to hear Andrew Huberman give you 100 different protocols that all probably work, that all probably make your life better.
Right.
It's easy to hear Chris Williamson bring on 50 different philosophers that blow your mind, that introduce these new ideas that can help you, that can improve you as a person, and you know, in the gym, in your mind, like in your lifestyle, like whatever it might be. It's easy to hear all of that and go, okay, what do I do with it? And we do listen to all of it. Like we consume a lot of those individuals, and didn't mention Jordan Peterson and Jocko Willink, and I'm perhaps missing a few others. But those are the type of people that we are listening to, that we are gaining from, that we are then applying a lot of what they say to our lives, figuring out what works best, and then
Mm-hmm.
I can't, like, as an audience member, I can guarantee you listening to this, you're not Jocko Willink, right? You cannot
Right.
compare to what he's done. You cannot compare to
Right.
what he continues to do. You don't wake up at 4:30 and do what he does every morning. But you can probably compare it to me, right?
Right.
I'm not where Jocko Willink is. We're not where Jocko Willink is. We're not David Goggins. You can probably compare it to
Right.
us. And so this is a way for you to digest the information in a more applicable manner through people that are continuing to grow, that are looking to get better, that are looking to gain from their audience as much as we hope you gain from
Mm-hmm.
us. And I think that's a pretty special thing, because most of the content I consume are from people that I aspire to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas we can bring you along for the journey, and we're doing it together. It's the playbook for growth, because we're trying to grow. We're in the process of growing. We're doing 75 hard, which will probably be an episode of itself when we're done with it. And we're bringing
Mm-hmm.
you along, and I think you nailed that perfectly. And yeah, we're all here to be better. You're listening to be
Exactly.
better. We're talking about this because we want to be better. Um, and so yeah, that's yeah, you nailed it. I couldn't really add much on, because that is it.
Well,
We're doing it together.
what you added was cherry on top, and I think that you you've said everything that should be said, and I kind of want to segue into something because of that. But my question to you and to how do you use failure to your advantage rather than letting it consume you? Because we just talked about how we're nowhere near Jocko, David, these guys, because they've done it and we haven't. But we're right here trying to be like them. They inspire us. So, through your life, I mean, everything you're gonna fail. Like you're not gonna get everything right the first time. So it's like, let's say you fail at discipline the first time, or you fail at 75 hard at day 3, or whatever whatever it is. How do you learn from that and use failure as an advantage rather than letting it consume you and maybe as a disadvantage?
Yeah, I wish I could pull it into the frame and like hold it up, because I just read the book Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, and the answer to your question, the long form answer, is the 200 pages in that book, and I would suggest anyone to go read it, because
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. But a few quick things on turning failure to your advantage. It's perspective, right? Because not everything is what they see, what it appears to be. And Alex Hormozy had he's got a good little like quick story for this, where a boy gets a new he gets a horse, like in the village a boy gets a horse, and everybody thinks, oh, that's a
Mm-hmm.
great thing to have. And then the wise
Mm-hmm.
old man says, we'll see. And then the boy falls off his horse and breaks his leg. And then everybody says, oh no, this is such a horrible thing. And then the wise man says, well, the old wise man in the village says, wait, we'll see. And then a war happens, and every boy in the village has to go off to war, and the boy gets to stay back, and he's safe at home because he's broken his leg, right? And so it's that kind of thing where not everything is what it seems, and things can sort of
Right.
maybe at the time feel like a blessing and turn to be a negative thing. And on the same token, as I've had even recently in my life, a seemingly negative situation can turn into a positive, and it can turn into a great thing, and it can open up new avenues. And so firstly, perspective. It's how can I turn this into my advantage, and how can I see how perhaps in the long run this is maybe just a part of God's ultimate plan, a better plan for me.
Right.
And then the second thing is, how do we act? How do you act in response? If you wallow in your misery because things haven't gone your way, or because you failed, or because, oh, I put three good days together, but then the fourth day was horrible. It's like, okay, well, now are you going to let the bad day compound, or is day 5 going to be a good one again? Right? How do you act in response? And where your body goes, the mind will follow, right? Don't let a bad day become a bad week. Don't let a bad week become a bad month, so on and so forth. And so how you perceive it in your mind, and then how you act in response to the failure, is certainly the two key components that I'm trying to implement. And also it's what Ryan Holiday goes on about in the book, obviously in more depth. But those two things: how do I perceive it? How can it perhaps not be what I think it is in my head? And how can I remove emotion from it and just be pragmatic about it and see it for what it is? And then secondly, how do I act in accordance or in response to whatever negative situation might have fallen upon me? And there's always, as you'll probably agree with, there's always an opportunity for growth. There's always an opportunity for improvement within failure, right? And you learn more from that than you do. My mum's always said this to me, but you learn more from your failures, from your shortcomings, than you do from winning.
Yeah, that's spot on. I think that some people have this view that failure is so bad, and that it's such a negative connotation, tied to it. And I think at the end of the day, it's actually not that bad.
It's necessary, right?
Right.
It's necessary.
You need to fail to learn, and you need to fail to be able to grow. And so if you're perfect, then how can you continue to be perfect the whole time? So
nobody is. That's why God is, right? Nobody is.
Right. So I think taking failure as the whole thing that you talk about is the mindset. Is let's take it and use it to our advantage. Let's learn from it, so that when the next time we're in that position, we know what to do. We know how to handle it. We go, okay, we were here last time, and we can learn from it. And I think that the mindset is the one of the cornerstones of as discipline, is having that mindset to you weren't disciplined today, but is tomorrow, are you going to be the same, or are you going to kind of like, let's move on, let's learn from what I did or what that temptation made me do, and then let's get back to business and let's get back to work.
Completely agree. To spin a question your way as well, then we talk about sort of the failure, and a lot of times that shows outwardly, sometimes it's just within. But when it is outwardly, obviously you get opinions from other people. Just on that in general, the opinions that you get from other people about how you're living, the remarks that you might get from people within your environment that aren't on the same path that you are. How do you, first I'll ask, what do you do with them? I would assume you block them out. If it's block them out or whatever it is, how do you go about doing that? And how do you refuse to let the opinions of others, the impression that you might give off, how do you refuse to let that affect you when you know what you're doing and why you're doing it?
I mean, they don't know. So they're coming from a place where they can't do it. So that's why they're saying it, is they can't do it themselves. So they're kind of pushing it onto you, like, oh, you're not doing this either, but I am, you're not. And so it's almost the notion of that they can't do it themselves, so they're kind of pushing it on you. And I think that at the end of the day, don't stoop down to their level. You know what you're doing. So be a strong person, and just keep doing what you're doing. Don't let people that can't do it affect that someone who can do it like you can, and you have been. And so I think that it's just noise. It's all noise. It's all just noise. It's just crickets. It's just, we talked about that in high school. It's crickets. It's just like this little talk that is so irrelevant because they're not even doing it themselves. So I've definitely learned that there's only a handful of opinions that really matter, and those are the opinions that you should actually value and care about. Close friends and family is really the core of whose opinion should be valued. and some person that you met in college saying, "Oh, you need to go to the gym or something," it's like, cool. I'll see you there tomorrow, 6 a.m. Oh, wait, you're not there. So it's just kind of that notion of just don't let them. Just, you know what you're doing. You know when you look in the mirror, you emptied the tank. You know that you're doing the hard thing first. You know all those things because, like we talked about Goggins, there's points. There's points on that map where you're like, I did the hard thing. I did the hard thing. I did the hard thing. And so it's almost just, those people are not a product. Don't let those people be a product of your environment. Don't let them. Don't stoop down to their level. Just continue to be on their level. And if they want to come up, which none of them do, because it's too hard, but then just let them be and just keep doing your thing. Don't let it affect you. Don't take anything personally. You know what I mean? We've read the book. We've read the 4 agreements. One of the agreements is don't take anything personally. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, just keep going. Just keep doing what you're doing. And for me personally, that doesn't really affect me because I know what I'm doing, and I know that I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I love it, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from. I like that one from, I believe, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. Yep.
Beautifully stated.
That's definitely a good one. Definitely a good one. On the same notion, take criticism from people that you would take advice from, right? Don't be blind to
Absolutely.
it. Absolutely. I've certainly always
be a learner.
Yeah. Humility and listen more than you speak. Those are big things. I mean, yeah, look, I'm good. I don't know what that's everything on my agenda. I'll let you.
Yeah, I'll close. I think that the notion that I would close on is stop saying yes to everything and start saying no. Is the notion I close on. All these people are asking you to do stuff. It's like, if you have stuff to do that's more important, or you have stuff that you need to do, don't say yes just because you feel like you have to say yes. No, exactly. You don't owe them anything. So say no. If you have to do the workout, if you have to do this, say no. Don't just say yes because you feel obligated to say yes, or because I went last time. Like, say no, and that will take you a long way. I know for me personally, in the last couple of weeks, it's taken me a long way. It's 8:30, and they're like, let's go play pickleball. And I say no. And they throw a fit. It's like, well, why do you want to come? Why don't you want to come? Why don't you want to spend time with us? It's like, first off, I can't stand pickleball. It's fun, but I can't stand it. And second of all, I got to read. I got stuff to do that is part of my schedule today that I need to do, and it's around my time, right? And so that's obviously just a fun one that comes to mind because it's always hilarious because they're always saying that. And it's not because I don't like them. That's not true. It's just I have stuff to do. And if you don't understand that, I'm sorry. Anyway, so that's one that comes to mind.
Yeah. No, saying no is definitely a superpower. You because it's awkward, right? It's not the socially cool thing to do. It's easier to say yes.
Right.
But yeah, no, you take control over your time and over your energy and your resources and whatnot. And then when you do have control over your evening, don't allocate 3 hours of it to TikTok.
Exactly.
As Goggins would say, and obviously there is a process of finding out what you have to do with your time, but you say you already know what you have to do. You just have to do it. It's like right? And most people listening probably know something that they're putting off even right now that they don't want to do, that they know they should do, and we all have those things. So that's a great closing point. It's exciting to be here. It's obviously just the beginning. There's so much that we can dive into, so many great people to learn from and to apply to our lives and to turn around into content for the show, and for people that, like you, the listener, to turn into the playbook. We'll give you that playbook for growth. So yeah, it's good. It's really good. Thanks for setting up. You're the man behind the scenes here, getting us sorted, and it's all exciting. So yeah.
Just want to thank everyone for listening. Hopefully you guys were able to take out at least one thing. I'm hoping more than that, but at least something that you've written down or that you distinctly can relate to, and that you can build on that. And hopefully you guys can start to write these things down and, like Sam said, build your playbook of things that work and don't work. And so we appreciate your guys' listening and supporting, and hopefully we continue to just bring you guys the content that you want. And of course, please let us know anything that you want to talk about or hear, and we're so thankful that you guys listen. So
Perfect.
have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode.